around through the air. People throwing homemade confetti. And now everyone, as if by signal, turns and faces south. Faces go up, looking up at the Times building. It may not be time, but they seem to sense that it is, almost. One lone sign down there, judgment coming, seek ye the Lord. But it's lost almost in the crowd. Up now to the ball of lights. It doesn't look as if it started to move yet. The New York Times electrician consults his watch, you know. And in 20 seconds before midnight, he pushes the button. And there it comes, slowly descending. Listen to the roar now. The magic moment. It is 1958. A new year is born. The globe of light seemed to go out just before it touched the roof. And those letters 1958, those figures came on slightly before the globe had touched the roof. But it's official. The new year is here. And those numbers are blazing forth on all four sides of the New York Times building. The building here in Times Square. Has died, and the great annual blessed event has happened. A new year has been born. Firecrackers exploding in the crowd now, but they don't care. A very happy scene as well as a tumultuous one. So now it's time for us to say it's Happy New Year in Times Square, and so back to the dance.
Everybody, a very happy new year, especially from all of us, and especially from Clairol, the first name in hair color. We hope you have a wonderfully happy and prosperous 1958. Happy New Year!
1958 by Robert P. Fitton. Plymouth Rock, landing place of the Pilgrims, 1620. Erected by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Plymouth Rock historical marker. Chapter 1, November 13th, 1999, Ellerby, Ohio. Unlocking Catherine's demons might destroy her. A continuous dream haunted her every night for 2 weeks. She woke in a cold sweat, screaming as if she was still trying to escape the pursuing killer. How could she face more terrifying nights alone in the dark? The day before the first dream, after 6 years together with Eric, he left her for an uppity blonde lawyer from Cleveland. Having Roz move in would at least give her some sense of stability. In the salt-sprayed car mirror, her tangled auburn hair and sinewy blood vessels around her misty blue eyes only added to the anxiety. The heat event's dry air warmed her face as a truck horn blasted behind her. She gasped when the truck horn's large chrome grille filled her rearview mirror. Again the horn blared, and she fought to control the car as she swung over to the inner lane. The massive gravel truck, like a passing reckless storm front, rocked her brown Corolla and continued down the highway. She exhaled and rolled across the corrugated asphalt rumble strip into the breakdown lane. Then she covered her clammy face as the radio show went to a commercial break.
A reminder, tonight's Conrad Ritter show on RNS. Mr. Ritter's special guest is the President of the United States. That's tonight at 9. Conrad Ritter is the voice.
Shut up! Are you everywhere? I hate you. Why is this happening to me? Why were you trying to kill Shane? Okay, Catherine, okay. You're going to get help very shortly. Calm down, calm down.
heard correctly. I'll be interviewing the President of the United States again this evening. Tune in or tune out. I'm Conrad Ritter, and I'll be seeing you.
Catherine banged the sound system's plastic power knob. Why? Why did you shoot them? Why? She approached Dr. Sakalatita's exit. She had only missed work once in the 10 years she had been at Donnelly & Associates. Unprocessed orders, chargebacks, and company reports probably filled her cubicle. Roz made the right move by sending her to a therapist. The red digital clock on her dash edged towards 4 p.m. She hated being late. Someone is inside my head. I know it. I know it. She never left the breakdown lane. Occasionally, the zippered highway strip pummeled her tires. She checked the mirror and then looked over her shoulder as she veered onto the ramp. A string of bare branch trees followed the off-ramp to the traffic light atop the hill. Distracted, she raced toward a van, stopped at the light, and banged her foot on the brake. She wiped her brow with a tissue, and then someone sounded the horn. The light had changed. You idiot, Catherine. Wake up, wake up. She fought to control the steering wheel as she traveled away from town toward the river. Only Roz knew about Shane. Catherine needed to find someone who would make sense of her repeating dream, understand why Shane resided inside her head. Shane, Shane, Shane. She clenched her fist. You and Billy were talking about Conrad Ritter wanting to kill you. The sunlight flipping between the branches bothered her eyes. She fumbled for her sunglasses. To her right, a wrought iron fence merged into the tree-lined hills, laced with gravestone shadows. Then the land leveled out ahead, but the anxiety returned. Snippets of the dream exploded like fireworks in her head. Shane screamed for help inside a darkened cavern. Catherine slid across the oncoming traffic to Sakalatita's unpaved road. Horns echoed as she skidded to a stop diagonally across the dirt. She peered over her shoulder and snapped her middle finger at the driver of a small green pickup truck. For at least a half a minute, her hands gripping the wheel, Catherine hyperventilated at the end of the drive. Then her cell phone startled her. She stared at the flashing display and then picked it up.
Catherine, it's Eric. I just wanted you to know that I shouldn't have left the way that I did, no explanation.
Still clutching the wheel, she nodded her head. Her mouth contorted into an odd smile. Does it really frigging matter, Eric? Does it? With his silence, she spoke again. Don't come running back to me when your hotshot attorney sends you packing.
Well, we were married last night.
Oh, go to hell, will you? Why are you calling me? She cut the signal and then threw the phone against the passenger window. Her tears exploded within the burgeoning helplessness of his betrayal. She sniffed and then blew her nose into the tissue. A faded wood sign with black and white letters and a long hand-drawn arrow indicated the road to Dr. Sakalatita's office. She slowly released the brake and inched across the dirt. Arthritic branches, yellow-leaf vines, and evergreen bushes surrounded the road. Her car slowly bounced up and down at each pothole as the road curved past a frozen swamp. A gray, two-story home emerged beyond a series of linear green cedar trees. Catherine entered a gravel parking lot adjacent to the gabled house and the river beyond. A dented, banana-colored compact parked near the cedars had a blue bumper sticker for world peace. She shut off the engine and pushed her fingers against her tired eyes. Maybe Sakalatita could hypnotize Shane and all this Ritter nonsense out of her head, or take away her memories of Eric. The keys shook in her hands. The freezing air chilled her wool sweater and coat as she opened the car door and reached for the door lock button. She finally swung her cloth pocketbook strap over her shoulder. Her heels pushed into the yellow grass clumps between the gravel rocks. Shane's pleas for help, trapped within a hidden underwater pocket, only occurred in her nighttime dreams. The wind whipped through the house's faded support columns as she wandered across the porch slats and placed her hand on the weathered panel door's tarnished brass knob. Within a single twist, she opened the door. Eastern Indian music and thick incense leaked outside from the foyer. She closed the door quickly as warm air gushed through the ornate cast iron floor registers. A maroon wall tapestry calendar hung below a gold wall clock with the ashen face of a Hindu god named Shiva. Amber candles in ornate metal holders flickered onto several spiral gold leaf paintings, and more gold artifacts scattered between fresh red and yellow flowers on the teak side table. A navy drape with gold beads and multicolored sequins darkened the outside window. A bronze floor lamp with a metallic copper shade illuminated the white-haired Dr. Sakalatita as he scrawled vigorously on a pad propped on his folded leg. He wore an off-white, embroidered shirt with deep, puffy green pants. His boots were brown suede and laced. A mural of a battle with fallen warriors and one warrior with a golden wheel above his head reaching out to a bearded white man on a silver chariot hung behind Sakalatita. "Now, Miss Jenna, you are past the appointed time." Catherine checked her thin gold watch band. "No, I'm right on time. What is that music?" Sakalatita pursed his thin lips hard enough to crunch a deep crevice wrinkle below his lower lip. He squinted as he spoke. "It is a prayer to God. The songs denote a complete giving of oneself to God in a song. And the time, Miss Jenna, for your information, is 4:15 p.m. I suggest you adjust your faulty wristwatch to the correct time." "No, the digital in my car is automatically set." "Time is like a butterfly in a storm." Sakalatita exhaled and set down his gold pen on the side tablet near the lamp. He stood, creating shadows on the mural. "It does not matter, Miss Jenner. What we will accomplish here today." "That mural, it's striking. From the war, from the laws for kings and warriors. You see, the Hindu laws of war forbid killing women, and those old and not armed, and even the conquered. Never ravage an enemy's land with fire, nor cut down its trees." Catherine smiled. "I don't know if I have that restraint." "Oh, given the proper motivation, Miss Jenner." Her face tightened. "My friend Roz said you could help me." Sakalatita's dark eyes focused for several uncomfortable seconds. "Maybe." The incense bothered her, and she briefly rubbed her nose. "Should I sit down?" He furrowed his dark brow. "Yes." He closed the office door and motioned her over to a burgundy sofa with twisted mahogany legs. He reclined in a huge brown leather chair and dragged his fluted gold fountain pen over a yellow-lined legal pad. Wyatt Ross recommended this guy." She tapped her fingers rhythmically on her cloth pocketbook as Sakalatita crossed his legs. The whites of his eyes glared as he nodded and jotted something on the pad. "Your friend said that you feel as if someone is trying to kill you." She straightened up. "Ross told you that?" "Who is trying to kill you, Miss Jenner?" "Conrad Ritter." "Conrad Ritter?" His bristly dark brows rose up and he chuckled. "Ritter is nationally known. His TV talk show has been on for 30 years. "I don't know why he's a murderer in my dreams." She pinched a tissue out of the box on the coffee table and swabbed her eyes. "What difference does it make?" "Perhaps you should reveal the dream to me." "It's the same dream every time. It started 2 weeks ago. I'm in Plymouth. You know, where the Pilgrims landed. I've never been to Plymouth in my life." "Sometimes we extrapolate things." Acid crept up her throat and seeped onto her vocal cords. Then she cleared her throat. "Oh, come on." "Tell me the dream." She gripped the tissue. "I'm running along a seawall at night, only I'm not me. I'm Shane." "Shane?" "Yes, Shane. She or I am with a guy named Billy. We're running down the road and All the cars, they're all old, maybe 25, 30 years old. Big cars with fins. We run past the place where the boat is, you know, the Pilgrim's boat. Ritter is driving down the road in his blue Volkswagen, an old type of Volkswagen. We tried to hide near the monument, the big granite monument where the rock is. I saw the engraved 1620 on the rock. Ritter has come out of his car. This is a national icon, Doctor, and he has a snub-nosed gun. Billy holds me while he tries to reason with Ritter. Ritter is much younger, he's thinner, and he calls out. He goes, "I'm sorry, but you're in the way. You won't stop me." He points the gun and fires, and then I wake up. Sakalatita stared and said nothing. The ticking gold clock and flickering candlelight added to the creepy atmosphere. "Say something, for God's sakes!" Again she reached for the tissues. Sakalatita set down his yellow pad, stood and opened a small cooler. He unscrewed the water bottle and swigged the liquid. "And for you?" "What?" "I am asking you if you would like some water, Miss Jenner." She shook her head. "I don't want any water." "What type of man did you think you would marry when you were a mere child?" Catherine tilted her head and then answered, "If you must know, when I was a little girl, I thought I'd marry the most wonderful guy in the world." "I see. And did you?" "I thought I would." He wrote something down on the pad. "And are you disappointed?" "Of course I am. Enough to fabricate a dream?" She stood quickly. "I have fabricated nothing." Sakalatita smiled. "Then a soul is reaching out to you." "A what?" "A soul reaching over time. You are the conduit." Shane calls out for my help like an echo in the tide. Sakalatita folded his hands as if he were praying. "Are you familiar with transformation therapy?" Catherine winced. "No." He smiled just long enough to flash his stark white teeth. "Miss Jenner, I engage in certain practices that may not be classified as conventional. I can assure you transformation therapy is real if the body is inhabited by restless spirits. But there are ancillary effects, if you will. The therapy transcends all time." Catherine sat up in the chair. "So you're telling me that I actually have spirits inside my damned head. Is that it? That's ridiculous." "Repeating dreams are often manifestations of spirits longing to bridge the gap between time and space." His brow deepened and his voice reflected a new intensity. "These spirits possess a yearning to be free from the burden they carry." "Burden? What burden? Come on! I've never heard of this therapy." She sprang from the sofa and mechanically strapped the bag over her shoulder. "I was just looking for some simple therapy." "Miss Jenner, this dream is not going to stop until you satisfy this lost soul. This Shane? And just your talking about it could trigger more dreams. You are in great danger. Let me help you." "Oh, come on, Doctor. I consider myself a competent woman. I'm assistant director of marketing for a company here in Ellerby. I may not be married yet, but at age 28, see, I was living with this guy I loved, and I was going to marry. He was a jerk, okay? Maybe that started all this." "I don't think so," said Sakalatita. "You don't know?" He rose from the chair and pointed his pen at her. "I've dealt with this pattern before. The spirit is there. Perhaps Shane was murdered. Transformation therapy is a form of hypnosis and more. We can give you an active role to jar loose the spirit." "I'm talking about legitimate psychological problems, and you're bringing in this transplant theory." "Transformation therapy As I said, it is not without risk. Catherine glanced at the outside door. Something I won't have to worry about. I think I'm going to seek the services of someone a little bit more mainstream. Sakalatita threw down the legal pad, stood and followed her. It will only get worse if someone is trying to reach you across time. It will begin to consume and then destroy you. Then I'll just have to trust my judgment, won't I? I cannot force you. I feel for what you are going through. He pinched a black and gold business card from the plastic holder on the table. Please call my private number when it gets worse. I prefer to think my dreams are a result of my own tensions. He placed the card with the raised gold ink into Catherine's trembling hand. She glanced at the Ellerby number. You will be back, Miss Jenner, when it gets painful enough. I don't think so. Or I will come to you. She backed toward the foyer door, twisted the knob several times, and then finally opened the door. Her heartbeat rattled her ribs as she clawed at the front door and ran outside. The clear, frigid air contrasted with the stifling environment inside the house. She gazed back at the closed drapes as she scrambled across the gravel. Her car keys were already in her hand. She unlocked the doors and got inside the Corolla. Once more she faced the gray-gabled house. Looney Tune. Chapter 2. The cocoa body wash inundated the room. Catherine plucked the remote off the dresser as she entered the room. The electric heat crackled across the metal baseboard. Revitalized from a hot soak in the tub, she flung herself on the bed and pushed the remote's power button. She flipped over and flung back her blow-dried hair as the TV clicked. As she propped up the oversized satin pillows, the screen slowly materialized. Conrad Ritter's unusual voice resonated in the speakers as his thick gray hair and wide cheeks slowly formed on the TV monitor. Oh, no! Ritter! She scooped the remote off the quilt and pushed the channel button, but Ritter remained on the monitor. Then she banged it on her knee. Come on! She heard the president's southern twang as she stood and clamped her teeth together. Ritter's well-timed delivery and bubbly charm rivaled the popular president's charisma. He had a perfect gray coif longer than most TV personalities, and his soft gray eyes exuded an empathy that kept him popular with millions of viewers. The well-timed clarity of his questions made people feel as if he were speaking for them. He was the voice because the media said he was. Conrad Ritter cared. The rumor circulating claimed that Ritter would run for the governorship of Florida. Catherine understood how he could easily translate his popularity into votes. She stared at his expansive cheekbones and sculptured brow as she moved toward the monitor. His eyes had a magnetic intensity that allowed him to maneuver his guests and produce loyalty in his audience. Maybe this charm and verbal ability was related to her dreams. Her runaway heartbeat rattled her ribs as she fell back on the bed and plowed her way back up the pillows. A murky image of Sakalatita's darkened office flashed into her mind. Having a spirit stuck in her head bordered on the ludicrous. Catherine did not even believe in spirits. She knew her breakup with Eric had triggered all those dreams, but fitting Ritter into the role of a killer baffled her. On the screen, he upstaged the president, who loved the spotlight, but seemed to enjoy yielding to Ritter. Ritter's voice reverberated around the room, even without looking at the video.
Well, I know, Mr. President, that your golf game is both consistent and on target.
What about your golf game, Conrad? Asked the president.
Well, my game is consistent. Consistently bad.
Ritter had the unusual self-effacing ability to win over his friends and detractors. Why was he armed with a handgun and driving a blue Volkswagen decades ago in Plymouth, Massachusetts? She thought back to her psychology course she took at Ohio Central and how the brain employed various symbols and dreams. Who was this Billy accompanying Shane on her nocturnal journey along the seawall to the Plymouth Rock Monument? She had never seen nor met the lanky young man with the crop of brown hair. Yet they both ran from Ritter in the dream. What could they have done to make Ritter want to kill them? She opened her eyes to Ritter's tailored blue suit and smooth red silk tie. His gold cufflinks glistened under the bright lights. The lines in his face appeared pressed exactingly into place. He represented success. Catherine sat up and tried to figure out the dreams logically. She had been with Eric for 6 years. They had planned to marry next July. Then it all fell apart when he left her for P.K. Evans, a woman who had her own law firm. Catherine's ego and sense of trust had been annihilated. She gritted her teeth as she thought about Eric's promises to always love her. And why did she dream up this setting of Plymouth, Massachusetts? That idiot Sakalatita told her that some spirit inhabited her thoughts. She shook her head. The phone ringing startled her, and she grabbed the receiver off the end table. "Hello?"
"Hey, it's me,"
said Roz. "Oh, finally. Listen, Roz, you're Sakalatita. He's a dumbbell."
"Hey, I'm just trying to help you, Catherine Marie."
Rosalind. Her dark-framed, dark-haired roommate appeared with her cordless in the doorway. Roz moved in when Eric moved out. "So Sakalatita didn't help you at all?" Catherine leaped from the bed. "Help me to leave his office? Roz, where did you find that kook?" Well, he came highly recommended. "By who? Bozo the Clown?" Funny, Catherine, funny. Ritter leaned back and smiled as the president kidded him. "Sakalatita reminds me of one of those occult people who have a handwritten sign for tarot card readings and crystal balls out in front of a rehabbed house by the side of the road." "Oh, he isn't that bad. He helped my friend Kitty at work," said Roz, cordless phone at her ear as she stepped into the bedroom. "Oh, did he get her a new litter box? Oh, the comedian continues." Roz's numbered purple nightshirt with some football player's name on the back covered her bulky form. A thick gold bracelet studded with diamonds hung on her wrist. "Roz, you're not wearing that bracelet again, are you?" "Aunt Jenny's 50th wedding present from Uncle Max. I don't keep my valuables in some storage vault. Of course, that upsets all my boyfriends." "Roz, somebody's going to rip that off your arm. It has to be worth a few $1,000s. $20,000. Roz still spoke through the phone. "Please, Catherine Marie, you worry too much. Sakalatita worked with Kitty just 2 times, and she was fine, completely cured." Catherine chuckled at how her hefty roommate would call her at night from the bedroom across the hall. "Kitty, oh dear God. Kitty has a fetish with army boots. Roz, I have my own problems, and I don't even want to go to sleep. My remote is broken." She turned back to the TV. The silver-haired president leaned forward.
"Isn't it true, Conrad, you're running for governor of Florida?"
Ritter formed a coy smile and paused long enough for people to await his answer. The smile lines around his eyes deepened.
"Well, Mr. President, when you're a public figure, you're always running. We're thinking about it. Certain considerations have to be made. We should have a decision by Friday. Now, let's talk about foreign policy." "Well, I say you need to change parties."
Ritter tilted his head back again, laughing as if the president was the funniest man in the world.
"Oh, well, it's been a party, let me tell you. And as you know, Mr. President, it's people that fuel any political efforts. The cards, the email, and faxes coming into our office is astounding. Support is there."
"Roz, why are you listening to him?" Can't stand him. "Well, he's going to run for governor out in Florida," said Catherine. "I have trouble enough here in Ellerby. If I get dumped one more time, I'm moving into the landfill." Catherine smiled. Roz's pudgy face and massive short brown hair added to her ability to be funny. "Listen, you on for Friday night? Should be a wild party." "Oh, you and your parties," said Catherine, studying Ritter's phantom eyes. She wondered if someday he would run for president. "Roz, you know I don't fit into that loud crowd." "The loud crowd, yeah, that's us," she said, disappearing into the hall, but she continued talking on the cordless. "I belong to a simpler time."
"The cerebral Catherine Marie. And what are you going to do about the dreams?"
"Hope they stop. Although I think if I had listened to Sakalatita when I started asking questions, the spirit would have been aware of my interest and the dreams would have gotten worse. He's a real confidence builder."
"Don't discount Sakalatita."
Roz, he's a quack.
Yeah, so what's the problem?
Good night, Roz.
Catch ya!
Roz leaned around the doorframe. Quack, quack. Oh, go to bed. Catherine set down the phone and checked the green digits on her table alarm. In 7 hours, she would be back at her desk sorting through marketing surveys. She shut off the light and only saw Ritter and the president in the TV glow. Maybe she should go back to school or find another line of work. She longed for the companionship she lost when Eric left her. She yawned and sunk her head into the pillow. As she closed her eyes, she only heard Ritter's voice. With the remote in the air, she pushed the power button and the room actually went dark. Fatigue crept over her body as she slowly drifted off. In the vague world between consciousness and sleep, Shane's faint voice echoed sporadically like waves slowly rolling toward a level shore. Catherine, help me. Catherine, help me. Shane stared at the long, sandy spit sheltering Plymouth Harbor as Billy drove the Nash along the ocean wall. The elongated evening clouds hovered with the sadness of Uncle Bud's untimely death. Billy braked at a small rotary where Route 44 began. She spoke loudly through the engine hum. Investigating Uncle Bud's accident won't bring him back. Billy fiddled with his dark sideboards as he drove. Bud was scammed, you said it yourself. At the Court Street lights, Shane checked the traffic in the rows of buildings downtown. Yes, he was taken for a lot of money. I just wonder about Conrad Ritter or Dmitri Meritokis causing his accident. I've always been afraid of Conrad. He's a mean person. I say, back off. Dan Jansen is suspicious of Bud's accident, said Billy. Well, he's a police sergeant. If either one of us finds something Ritter or Dmitri said, Jansen said he would alert the district attorney's office and they'd start looking into Uncle Bud's accident. Jansen just needs something. Shane's eyes filled. Her uncle was an outgoing guy who vitalized everyone around him. He specifically had told her how Dmitri had taken his money, how Dmitri had laughed at him at the Pleasant Valley office next to St. Sebastian's in North Plymouth. But she had no proof, and had kept that information from Aunt May. I just don't believe Uncle Bud was drunk when he hit those trees on Route 3A. Billy pulled away from the traffic light along Pilgrim Hall. The last sunlight brightened the top of the red and white WXBN tower. Listen, Dmitri was your uncle's partner and convinced Bud to invest his money, and now it's in the paper that Conrad is bidding on WXBN. Right up there. How does a 22-year-old kid buy a radio station? Dmitri is at that station all the time, and how did he link up with Conrad? Is Bud's money tied into that station? Billy brought the Nash past the hillside cemetery near the highway bridge where they buried Uncle Bud. The long hill continued under the highway toward a distant brown water tower within the woods to the west. I think either he or Dmitri did something to Uncle Bud's 88. The car was less than a year old. It was his pride and joy, Billy. And who is Dmitri? When Conrad leaves Plymouth for school in New Jersey and comes back a radio personality. Conrad is very talented. He sounds older and wiser than he is. But you know he has an ego a mile wide, and he must be financially linked with Dmitri, she said, clenching her fist. She checked behind the Nash. What would stop them from killing us if they knew that we suspected them? Nothing. The rich smell of cow manure filtered into the car. Shane laughed and held her nose. The sharp sunlight caught the cornfields and a tall white silo. To the east, WXBN's high red and white antenna stood like a rocket on the launch pad, overlooking the bay up to Cape Cod. She wondered if they were only stirring up more trouble by checking into Uncle Bud's death. Black and white cows basked in the afternoon light near the high-tension wires leading south. Wood poles cast shadows over the high grass. I need to actually look under the hood of Bud's 88, said Billy. It was brand new, so no one can argue mechanical failure. They never checked his blood level to see how much he had to drink. The road narrowed through a rural woodland. Uncle Bud always had 2 glasses of wine at the wayside, and that was it. Well, he was at the wayside for less than an hour, and every waitress there said he sat alone looking out the window and only had 2 glasses of wine. Why did he start drinking again once he got in the 88? No, I don't think so. but he did get a phone call at the table. Who was it, and what did they want? Shane put on her sunglasses as the sun cut through the trees ahead. They passed a series of cranberry bogs, matted red in the sunlight. People talked to him. He wasn't drunk. Half an hour later, he was dead. What happened from the time he left the restaurant till he hit the tree? Billy shifted the car again. That question may never be answered, Shane. We have to work around all that circumstantial evidence. He looked out the window. The junkyard is up here on the Carville line. Uncle Bud called Aunt May from the wayside. He said he'd be home by 8:30 because he wanted to watch Gunsmoke. Billy shook his head. Somebody either met him or got him drunk, or they did something to his car. If it's still in the junkyard. Billy signaled at the rusted metal sign for S.L. Horowitz Auto Salvage, an automobile junkyard in a wooded section of Carver. In the twilight, the Nash rolled over the uneven dirt road toward a tar paper office shack under tall pines. Billy slowed the car and shut off the engine about 50 feet away from the shack. Shane stepped from the car, but her heart raced as she scanned the mounds of compacted cars. More rusted frames surrounded the rows of stripped cars up the forested hill. A couple of Dobermans appeared inside the shack windows and hit their paws against the glass. Billy, I don't like it here. Suppose Dimitri really sabotaged Bud's car, Shane. We need to find that Plymouth 88. The police report said the car was towed here. Well, maybe we should just let Jansen handle it and let Jansen and the cops handle it, said Shane. Let's just find Bud's car. Shane followed Billy past the half-shingled shack over to the first aisle of junk cars. He studied the cars looking for Uncle Bud's green and white 88. Uncle Bud showboated his new car when he picked it up at the dealership in Brockton. He and Aunt May drove around for hours, and he gave his friends trips around Plymouth. Shane had sat in the front seat as her gray-haired uncle gripped the large plastic wheel, beeped the horn, and waved throughout town. Then her mind shot back to Bud's funeral. She pictured the flag-draped coffin at the cemetery last week and how Aunt May's tears never stopped after reading the letter from President Eisenhower. Billy, elevated on a car bumper, peered over the wrecks down back. He pawed over the mangled cars while Shay followed, her arms folded as she constantly watched the office shack. Several times she pleaded with him to leave, but he was adamant about finding her uncle's car. Half an hour later, he abandoned his search and brought her back to the main office. A couple of motorcycles were now parked near the trees, and a battered red pickup truck was backed against the building. Billy motioned her inside the shack's open door. A transistor radio on the shelf played Ricky Nelson singing his new version of I'm Walking. Shane stepped into a smoke-laden office with grease-smeared walls. A little man in a loose-fitting sleeveless undershirt adjusted his black-rimmed glasses and stroked a hint of a mustache. He stood behind a desk scattered with papers soiled by car parts, and he placed a cigarette in a glass cup as he exhaled. "Who the hell are you?" "Somebody looking for a car," said Billy. "Yeah, that's what they all say." His right arm had a vivid blue tattoo of a mermaid and a tall ship. He pinched his cigarette and made a goon face and talked like a baby. "Let me guess, you've lost your dream car. Brand new 88, white with green trim. What, the wreck? You're talking about the tree accident on 3A. "Bud Kerrigan," said Billy. "Yeah, that car is up back, but you ain't getting near it. Car is scheduled to be towed." "Did anyone run tests on it?" "Tests? What tests? What the hell are you talking about?" "I don't think you understand, kid. It's all over. The thing's going bye-bye." "Well, if it's here, why can't we see it?" asked Billy as Adam's apple moved up and down as he spoke. "Well, because you can't. Now beat it." A small revolver lay partially hidden within the used parts scattered on the desk. Shane raised her brows and slowly nudged Billy toward the door. He spun around once they were in the yard. "I don't have to listen to him. I think we better go. That man had a gun on his desk." "Well, maybe they paid off this guy, too. That 88 is still up there. It may be our last chance to prove anything. Come on." Billy took her hand, and they darted behind another row of rusted cars. Shane had a queasy feeling in her stomach. She glanced back at the office's sagging roof, afraid the tattooed man would grab his gun and come after them. Then they ran past the tonnage scattered along the dirt slope. A few minutes later, next to a crunched Buick and a woodbed truck along the woods, Billy spotted the 88's fender. The cracked windshield and the crunched front sent tingles across Shane's abdomen. "Stay back, Shane." My God, blood! She had not counted on the wave of grief descending upon her when she saw her uncle's car. "Just stay back," he said on his knees. "I need to check the gas and brake lines." "Wouldn't the police have done this?" she asked, back to the edge of the car. "What if the guy sees us out here?" She looked into the car as Billy said nothing and stuck his head under the car frame near the collapsed white tire wall. Shane turned away from her Uncle Bud's blood, dried brown on the white seat under the cracked windshield glass. She closed her eyes and refused to face the car. "Hurry, Billy, hurry." His muffled voice emerged from under the car. "Did you see anyone?" No. She looked back toward the shack again. Billy rocked from side to side on his back as he emerged from under the car. He placed his palms under the edge of the crushed hood. The hinges creaked as he forced the deformed metal upward. "Gas line is intact." Shane still saw no one on the slope. "What's in there?" Billy fidgeted with something under the hood. "The brake fluid levels." The man with the gun and two men in denim jackets and jeans appeared in the main area. "Billy, they're looking around." "Well, I've almost got it off." Something clicked under the hood. Gone. The damn brake fluid is gone, Shane." "You mean he had no brakes?" Billy pushed down the twisted hood and grabbed her hand. "Someone drained that brake fluid." Shane ran with him along the cars. "Then Uncle Bud was murdered. We need to get this information to Jansen. I can't believe this." They squeezed around the cars and rushed into an adjacent aisle, but the little guy in the sleeveless undershirt spotted them. He gripped the revolver with both hands and fired twice. Billy pushed her to the ground. The other gunfire erupted as they crawled through the tall grass between the cars. Once on the other side, they sprinted to the Nash. Billy flung open the door and started the car. He backed around in a huge circle, tearing up the dirt. More shots were fired as the car fishtailed onto Route 44. Back in the junkyard, the three men ran toward the red pickup parked by the office. The Nash bounced over the ruts. "They're going to kill us." "No, they won't. We're going to Jansen." She balanced her chin on the seat as the truck backed away from the shack. Billy's contorted face reflected the escalating tension as he raced back toward town. "We have a pretty good idea Maritokas took the money, but we don't have the proof that he drained the brake fluid from Uncle Bud's car." "Well, that's up to Jansen," said Billy. "He can't make a case if they tow away the car." Billy checked the mirror himself. I know. Let him get a court order." God, no. "What's the matter?" she asked, turning again. A couple of 100 yards behind the Nash, the truck raced onto Route 44. "They'll kill us, Billy. They'll kill us." At the next turn, a blue Volkswagen veered onto the highway from the wooded road up to WXBN. "Conrad Ritter? I'm so scared. Let's get downtown, along the water. We'll call Jansen." Catherine sat up and screamed into the darkness. She reached for the light above the digital clock but knocked over the lamp. The bulb flashed and popped as Ross raced. I'm Robert P. Fitton, and I've been zooming into the past. Fitton time travel books abide by historical events as they happen. Music, television, and daily events are concurrent with the time travel plot. Check out Fitton's Time Travel and all Fitton books at audible.com.